Hello, Mavs fans. Welcome to Pod Maverick After Dark. We're talking to you before 8 o'clock, which is got to be the weirdest thing that's happened for us in quite some time. The Dallas Mavericks played a early game. Oh, shoot. I skipped part of my intro. Joined as always by Josh Bowe. We are editors over at MavsMoneyball.com. Josh, how you doing?
Doing okay. Like I said, recording before 8 o'clock, so that's pretty nice. But yeah, doing okay. This is going to be a weird game to talk about.
Yeah, because the Mavericks lost 123 to 118. They lost in overtime. The final 30 seconds of regulation and the overtime were a disaster in every way possible for the Mavericks, to the extent that I'm not like, I don't want to be a shit all the time when they lose, you know, because this was actually a really fun game. And I'm very frustrated that we have to sort of lead with the bad parts first. But I think, hold on one second. I'm going to tell my dog to stop this. Are you serious? Shut up. I did not mute myself.
That's okay. Even your dog is pissed off about that Mavericks game. He's like, what the fuck?
So do you want to start with overtime and work backwards? Because I kind of do. Because
no, that's fine. My take is more centered on the overall game, so I want you to do that because you've got that on your mind. So let's go overtime and work backwards.
So with overtime, the Mavericks scored the first two baskets, and the last basket that they scored was, I think, a lively putback. Was that at 3:21, and then they proceeded not to score for the final 3 minutes and 21 seconds of the game. And that is a coaching issue for me. The Mavericks in these clutch time games that they've performed have been so fucking bad in the clutch that it's gone past like what you would expect. Like, they're shooting such a low percentage in these times that I have to involve Kid in this. I've been reluctant in my Kid criticism because I have a pretty good understanding of what he's trying to achieve, but the decision making with the rotation tonight was stupid, and he deserves blame for this. Playing Spencer Dinwiddie for as long as he did, and for as cold as Spencer was, is insane. Spencer does not hold fault. Like, he's not the sole reason the Mavericks lost. But Kid continuing to play a guy who was, like, he ended up 1 of 12. That's extraordinarily difficult to do, okay? I was listening to the Heat broadcast. They were delighted every time he shot the ball because he just didn't have it tonight. That's okay. But at some point, you have to stop fucking giving him the chance. And there was when the Mavericks were down 118 to 122, that was when he decided to sub Klay Thompson back into the game. And he didn't sub out Spencer. He subbed out the only other player besides Kyrie who was consistently getting shots to go down in Najee Marshall. And I'm sorry, that's bad coaching. Najee Marshall is a perfectly adequate ball handler. He can be fine. You know, Spencer can skip around from 45 or 50 feet like a dork and do whatever his little crossover horseshit that he loves to do before pulling up into a jumper. Najee can do that too. Najee can miss horrible shots too, only I think Najee might put his head down and actually get a floater to be going. So I'm very frustrated in that element of the game because Kid and the team have to do better. They have to draw out better out of timeout situation plays, and they just didn't do it. The other part that really bothered me, frankly, was I thought Kyrie sort of quit. Maybe quit's a little too strong, but maybe he was just gassed. Like, because Kyrie not taking any of those shots was maddening, but he also missed 2 bad fall away threes. So I find myself a little challenged by the result in that game. Like, the Mavericks scored 4 points in overtime. Like, you just can't have that happen. And then, you know, that was very frustrating, but you shouldn't have been in the position to begin with, because at the end of the game, Kyrie misses a clutch free throw after getting a crazy steal from Jimmy Butler. He misses 1 of 2 free throws. Kyrie is not a free throw missing kind of guy. And then the Mavericks just blow it on defense. Like, they blew it on defense. Now, whether it was Lively or PJ who was supposed to pick up Jimmy Butler, the fact that both of them let Butler go is insane.
Yeah,
it's
very bad.
And
they're lucky that they actually got to overtime because Lively tried to come back and he actually fouled.
Lively fouled. Yeah,
Butler.
the game should have been over. The game should have been over.
So
and maybe that would have been easier. Maybe that would have been easier to deal with to an extent, because I watched that play like 3 or 4 times and both Lively and PJ freeze. They both freeze, and that sucks. And so, you know, this one, I hope it leaves a bad taste in their mouth. I do. I hope that I hope they feel bad about this one, because this is one that you should win and they didn't, and they should feel stupid.
Yeah, that's a game you can't. I mean, I don't want to say you can't lose because it's not like they played great. Obviously, like they lost. The overtime offense was terrible. But like you look at the game, like when their starters were in, they were killing it. I mean, this game, we could talk about individual plays in overtime. We could talk about individual plays in the fourth quarter. They lost this game because their bench was so catastrophically awful that it canceled out, and then some, the good work that most of the starters, every starter was a positive and plus minus tonight. And like, I know individual game plus minus is really difficult, but this was earned. The bench was terrible, and the Mavericks, I think they were cruising in the first quarter. Bench came in, completely dropped the ball, lost momentum, played terrible on both sides of the ball. They end up trailing at the end of the first quarter, and they kind of just had to keep going back and forth. Where the starters, you know, maybe the main 5 or 6 guys would come in, and they would play well, and then the bench would come in and give up the lead, and then the starters come back in, they scratch and claw to get the game close. Bench comes in, gives up like a 5, 6, 7, 10 point lead. Starters come back in, claw to get it close. Bench comes back in, gives up the lead, and they just couldn't overcome that the whole night.
Really
like if the bench played mediocre, like this is how bad they were. If they played a mediocre game, the Mavericks win this game by like 15 points. The Hardy, Dinwiddie, Maxi Kleba lineups that they rolled out there at times in the first half and third quarter were some of the worst looking basketball the Mavericks have played all season. It was
you know what those
awful.
3 shot, right?
I tweeted they were 1 of 19. They scored 7 points those 3, and they combined to play 46 minutes. And of course, Dinwiddie is the bulk of that. He played 28 minutes.
No, but like the Hardy minutes.
The Hardy minutes
Hardy
were a
misses,
disaster.
The Hardy
and the Kleba
minutes
stuff,
too. I'm willing to live with the Hardy offensive miscues, but like he was so bad on defense. So if you're a Hardy truther, and I've been finding them, because it's just like there's this weird segment of NBA fan that latches on to a team's 9th man and makes that their internet personality. I don't understand it, but whatever, floats your boat. And I've been finding more and more folks that really want to tell me what Jaden Hardy can be. And like my expectations of him are to not be. I want him to have more positive moments than negative moments. But there was a missed free throw tonight. No, a made free throw where Kevin Love takes the ball and rifles it down the court for, I think, a Jimmy Butler layup. Do you know who the last man back was on that play?
Was it Hardy?
It was Jaden Hardy. Mm-hmm. Tyler Hero got a backdoor layup at a key moment in the fourth quarter, and he came from the right corner and made it on it was a reverse layup on the other side of the rim. Hardy turns around and realized that it was his guy. Do you know where he was when he turned around? He was in the short corner. He wasn't wasn't like a mild backdoor. It was like something you see from child sports. And
it was like someone did that prank that your friend does where they tap you, they reach around your shoulder and tap you. Yes.
And here's the thing. Yeah. You can miss shots on offense. I think people will live with you on that, but you can't do the things that he does on defense. And he doesn't do them every game, but the Heat are the kind of team to expose your weak points. And I promise that Eric Spoelstra has drawn up when Spencer Dinwiddie and Jaden Hardy are on the floor, and even Kyrie to an extent because he's small. Attack. The Heat are a bitch to defend, and the Mavericks had their moments where they looked like they knew what they were doing. But this, with those bench minutes, like Kid is just addicted to the Hardy Spencer combo, and I don't get it.
I don't get it either. And I feel like he went really like hockey subs, like full lineups. Like, why? I'm pretty sure they had units where there were like 4 bench guys on the floor at the same time. Like,
that's like, what are we doing? We're already down. We need to spread the guys around.
Right. Like PJ, and I know like guys, PJ played 40 minutes, Kyrie played 39 minutes. So some guys play like Lively played 31, Clay played 31, and Grimes played 27 in an overtime loss. Like, why aren't you leaning on those guys a little bit more? When you need them, it'd be one thing if the bench was killing it, but like I don't know why he rode those lineups so hard all game. Like, it should have been very quick. He was a little bit quicker with Maxey and Jaden. Like they combined, they each played 9 minutes, so he got the message with that. But Dinwiddie playing 28 was just, I don't know. He had 7 assists and no turnovers. He had 2 steals and a block. So I'm guessing some of those plays, like, he did make some good plays, but he just stayed on the floor forever. Like, he just never. He just kept missing shots, and he just never took them off the floor. But yeah, the Dinwiddie, I can't wait to look this up tomorrow because the NBA doesn't have their lineup data for individual games up usually until middle of the night or whatever. Those Kleba, Hardy, Dinwiddie lineups were outrageous, and I'm pretty sure Najee was in those minutes too.
Najee's minutes. So
he had a terrible first half, but then he turned it on, obviously.
But and the plus minus is very reflective of that. As he finishes with the -18, but he couldn't hit a shot in the first half, and he finally found his shot after starting, I think, like 0 for 5 and 0 for 6, and that was a big part of this. But
they lost. This was a coaching loss to me. See, and they haven't really had one yet.
I think overtime was a coaching loss. Okay. I think that those last 2 plays, because
but they're not even in overtime if he doesn't play these outrageous bench units in the second and third quarters.
That's a fair enough point.
I understand. No, I know what you mean.
See, but you got to play. And Seeker mentioned this in the chat earlier, where he's like, Lively also got lost on the play before where they fouled. Like,
Duncan Robinson got a wide open 3 that would have ended the game.
We're getting a lot of year 2 Lively's a young player kind of decisions, or reminders, and so I'm trying not to be too hard on the guy. Because
he also did have a good, he had a
good game. Yeah. I mean, he had 14 points, 13 rebounds, he had 4 assists. But also, and I mean this like lovingly, we're watching the game, and like there's times where Lively is in there with his hands all crossed, like swatting at it, like late stage Dwight Powell. And I'm just like, grab the ball, big guy. Grab the ball. You're bigger than everybody else. Go grab the ball. Grab the ball.
But yeah, I think Kyrie, this was one of the weirder games from Kyrie.
He wasn't very good.
He wasn't participating until the fourth quarter is the most mild way I could put it.
Well, all right, we're at the halfway point. I want to circle back to Kyrie. Okay. All right, guys, I want to talk to you real quick about our sponsor. This is the third show that we've had a sponsor. I hilariously botched the ad read that I wrote in my first one. And guys, I want to talk to you about them real quick because it's important. Us having a sponsor is really one of the main ways you can help our show. Our new sponsor that we've been talking about here is a company called Body Spec, and they're a company here in Dallas that has so many locations that can provide you with what's called a DEXA scan. And it's a full body composition scan that can help you understand what's going on with your body. Whether you're an athlete, you're a parent, you're a guy with a desk job like Josh and I, and you're considering getting back into shape or just seeing where you are on your kind of fitness journey, a DEXA scan is a really great way to learn more about where you are. Down there in the show notes, there is if you're watching live on YouTube, if you're listening on a podcast, in the show notes, there is a link to a Body Spec link to where you can go see what I'm talking about. Click on that link. It would be very helpful to us. And then sign up and get yourself a scan. You can use the code PODMAVS45. And if you do that and you go ahead and do that, and it's an all caps link, You sign up, get a scan. You'll laugh at how many options there are where you live in the Dallas area. Like there's one
everywhere.
They're everywhere. And I just had no idea until I started working with this company. Josh is going to work on getting his this week, and then we're going to be able to talk to you a little more about it. It's a great gift idea. The Body Specs competitors charge as much as $150 for a scan like this, and it's really affordable, particularly for getting right with your health, guys, because I'll tell you what, I learned this at 40. You're either paying for stuff on the front end or you're paying for it on the back end. So you might as well spend some money up front, help figure out where you are. If you visit the bodyspec.com link, it would really help us. Use the code PODMAVS45 for $15 off your scan.
Kirk, okay. Tell them what you told me before we recorded about how easy it is. I think that's a key point.
Takes like if you book your appointment, it takes about as long as going and standing in line and getting a prescription. They say it takes 7 minutes.
Yeah.
They say it takes 7 minutes. Mine took 5. And granted, I had filled all the what counts as paperwork on beforehand, but even that was like, it's your name, your weight, granted, the scan even tells you your weight, but it wants an estimate, height, stuff like that, your age, and it's real easy. It's great. All right, I'm going to insert some ads here for our Blue Wire network, and then we'll be back to talk a little bit more about this game. All right, guys, thanks so much for bearing with us. While you're here, if you could go ahead and do me a favor and subscribe to the show, like the stream, leave comments, all of that wonderful stuff. It's very helpful to Josh. We're kind of ramping up to the season. We're 18, 17 games in now. Things are settling. We're going to see the Mavericks are going to start hitting a little bit of a stride. I have a feeling on that. Even, Luke will come back eventually, and we'll hopefully be able to look at these first 20 games and say, man, you remember when the Mavericks were making mistakes like that? And, sort of speaking of challenges, like, again, this happens every time Luka misses games and Kyrie plays. Last January, Kyrie played 5 games without Luka, where he played some of the best basketball in his career. Okay. And so Kyrie is really, we've seen some of the most brilliant aspects of Kyrie, but I will tell you, just due to the kind of player that he is, and I think the kind of player he would prefer to be at this stage, there are times where he really lets others get into the mix more than I think he should. And the numbers may not reflect this at the end of the game, but as you're watching the game, I will tell you there are times where you're saying, all right, we need more Kyrie. We need more Kyrie. And I don't want to sit here and act like he's accountable solely for this loss, but in the games without Luka, he doesn't shoot as well. It just doesn't. And that should make sense to anyone with a brain. And so the discourse that happens whenever Luka misses time, and it's a minority, but the minority starts to dictate the discussion of the Mavericks, they might be better with Luka or with Kyrie. No. Stop it. You're stupid. Kyrie would tell you you're stupid. The Mavericks would tell you you're stupid. Go away. Stop this crap.
I know. Yeah.
All right. Go ahead.
It was a weird game because, you know what you talked about in the first half of the show where you were like, missing shots is one thing. Mm-hmm. People are going to miss shots. That's not something we're going to necessarily kill you for unless it's, being lazy when you're missing shots. So Kyrie was missing shots, but the thing is he's normally pretty active and engaged throughout a game, even if he's not playing particularly great defense. He's not having a good defense. He just wasn't moving. He wasn't getting the ball up and down the floor. He was kind of looked lackadaisical going through the motions in half court sets. He wasn't pushing in transition too much. The Mavericks had 6 fast break points, Kirk. 6. And the Heat did not shoot particularly well tonight. So there were rebounds and opportunities to be had. The Mavericks had 59 rebounds. As a team, they had 44 defensive rebounds. The Heat had only 9 turnovers, so that definitely helps limit fast break opportunities. But there are plenty of missed shots and live ball rebounds for the Mavericks to push. And I feel like Kyrie didn't have that zip that he normally has when he gets the ball. I felt like there was a lot of center grabs the ball, looks for Kyrie, and then kind of hands it off, and then Kyrie kind of jogged it up. Which, if you watch Kyrie, that's not how he normally plays. He's usually he's got a rocket shoved up his ass. He's flying down the court. He's one of the best transition players in the league.
Yeah.
So that was weird. And that bled into everything else. It bled into his shot making. It bled into his shot selection. Let me see if I can get his shot chart because I feel like he shot a ton of jump. He was 4 or 5 in the restricted area, but didn't take a lot of mid rangers. Shot a lot of above the break threes. He only took 1 mid range jumper, and he took 3 in the paint outside the restricted area shots. I don't know, just kind of he was like on cruise control. Like he cruised through the game. And that happened on defense too, by the way. He was matched up on Jimmy Butler a lot. Jimmy Butler had 33 points on 17 shots. The team fouled a ton defensively in the first half. That really got them in a hole as well. They cleaned that up a little bit better in the second half. But yeah, like Kyrie, it was like he didn't feel like participating. And I feel like I can say this because then the fourth quarter happens and it was all the things I'm saying that he didn't do, he did in the fourth quarter. He got that steal. He played much more active defense. He had that awesome steal on Butler that could have sealed the game at the end, although he did miss the free throw. He got himself, some scores. He kind of took over the offense a little bit down the stretch. So I don't know why it took him that long to do that. I don't know if he was gassed after playing in Denver in the altitude and then they traveled to Miami. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but he just didn't have it. And you know what? That's okay because sometimes guys don't have it. It's not the worst thing in the world, but he didn't play well for 3 quarters. And what's crazy is they still could have won. Like he was still positive on the floor because like the team just still has defenses still have to respect him enough. But the bench just let them down in such a way. But like if he played an awesome game, then they would have won this game handily. I think it was another just missed opportunity.
I mean, the missed free throw.
It's the only one he missed.
And he's 52 of 60 from the line now this year, which pretty awesome.
Right.
I would doubt we see Kyrie miss a clutch free throw the rest of the year. Just quite candidly, like he doesn't miss shots like this. And he did. And that like the Heat do this thing where the Heat are amazing at getting teams to do the thing they don't want to do. And that's what made the Mavericks' offensive performance for most of this game so fascinating to me, because I know the Heat are a diminished capacity team relative to what we've known in recent years, but Eric Spoelstra is in my opinion, the best X's and O's coaches in the league, and he gets the most from what he has. I mean, look at the corner threes. Like the Mavericks, God. And so it's like they forced Kyrie into some crazy shots that he ended up making. The one
19 corner threes for the Heat tonight. Made 8.
And so it's like on offense, the Mavericks, I think, were really quite good against the Heat for a lot of this game, in spite of some of the muck that we saw. Like they scored the Heat dominated the Mavericks from the second half of the first quarter until about the 9-minute mark of the second quarter. Then the Mavericks went to work. And then in overtime, and that was enough for the Heat to walk away from this game. But there was just enough like tiny miscues. I don't understand how PJ wasn't more involved in overtime. I don't even know if he took a shot, let alone saw. I mean,
I think Kyrie and Dinwiddie took every. Did Kyrie and Dinwiddie take every shot?
There might no offense in those final. The Mavericks, the Kyrie took a nice 15-footer that he just sort of walked into, because the Heat play every now and again like a bit of an odd 2-3 matchup zone, and Kyrie on each sideline inbounds play, you guys saw this, Kyrie just sort of stood in the center of it and got the ball and took a shot. It's fine. It's fine offense. But that's not play, like that's not play design. Like Kid has historically been not bad in after timeout situations, but in clutch situations, the Mavericks are not getting good shots. And that is an indictment of coaching. It just is. Like what was crazy tonight is Luka quite reasonably takes heat for a lot of shitty shots and shitty moments. That's kind of been the theme for Luka in the clutch this year, because he hasn't made very many. Without Luka, they're still doing the same thing. So right. At what point is that not solely on him and solely on what they're designed to do in the offense? So,
yeah. And also, clutch offense, we want, everyone wants the offense to be running like these Princeton sets where you're getting backdoor cuts and you're getting these great looks every single time. And that's not, NBA teams are good. Like defenses are good. You're not going to get the best shots all the time when you're playing against a team that's locked in a close game that's trying to stop you. So having said all that, what makes it difficult is when you're not playing your best line. Like, you have Dinwiddie in there in the clutch. I think now, you don't have Clay, you don't have Grimes, who are probably your two best floor spacers right now besides Kyrie. Like the personnel kind of made that clutch offense look ugly regardless of what they were going to do with the ball or not, because the Heat had so many more opportunities to cheat. When Dinwiddie, they didn't care if Dinwiddie shot. They didn't care at all. Like you said, the Heat broadcast team was like kind of laughing at all the shots that Dinwiddie was taking.
I mean, Miami
did not care.
Is it too much? Is it too much to say that I think they should cut Spencer Dinwiddie and move on? My problem with Spencer Dinwiddie in the signing was vibes, but his play sucks. He's shooting 33% from the floor.
Yeah, I know.
Under 21 for 67. That's his shooting percentage. Very bad.
Pretty bad. Did you see the kid quote?
No. What did Captain say?
Basically said that like Spencer closing. So quote, "This is a different group to end with to see how they handled it. We put ourselves in a position to win." So basically saying he was experimenting with a new closing lineup. It's just like, man, like, if they were like 10 and
where is that? I need to.
I got here. Let me
send it to me.
It's in the chat. Someone posted in the chat.
Here, I'll go find it.
It's Mike. Here, I'm going to put it in your Slack. Mike Curtis has it.
That's big. Is it? I think you should leave. Is that the show?
We're all trying to find
the guy who did this.
Yeah, in the hot dog suit. Yep. Yeah. So that, this is Dorian Finney-Smith posting up twice in the opening night of that season opener 3 years ago. Like, this kid likes to do this. We said it. He likes to experiment. And then there's nothing really wrong with experimenting, by the way. It's just they're 9-8 and they play again tomorrow, and they play a Hawks team that's pretty feisty and that's pretty athletic and can present some challenges to a Luka-less Mavericks team. You experiment in a game that you should win. Now you're 9-8. If you lose a back-to-back tomorrow, you're 500 again, 18 games in the season, and you're just like, I don't know. They got to build some wins before they experiment. Like, I feel like they should just get a base of wins. Like, have a nice little cushion, because the West this is not a season again where the West is not going to make it easy on you. Like, it's one game in November, but how the standings are going to look, like, what if they miss the 6th seed by one game, or they miss the 4th seed by one game? And you're
two fantastic comments I need to address. And I know I sometimes over-index the comments, but I love our listeners, and I want to let them know that we actually do see all this stuff. The first from Savannah May, she says, "I feel like most people in here would be a better coach than Jason Kidd." The one thing I will say, Savannah, and this is important, is that Kidd, I think, has a very good understanding of the long view of the NBA season. I think he has shown that. You don't get to the finals and get to the conference finals without understanding of when to push the right buttons. I don't think he has a good grasp on the fact of what you need to do game to game to put yourself in the position to have these these small but important advantages come playoff time. Like, he just that's why not. I mean, the first year where the Mavericks made the Western Conference Finals that was the first time any team he's ever coached has won 50 games. Like, he's not a good regular season coach relative for records. That kind of drives me crazy. The second comment that I really like is from Salam saying, "Jason Kidd loses us about 10 to 15 games a season by his experimenting. It sucks." It's the reason I want to pair this with a thought that I've had, because Luka takes a lot of reasonable flack for not approaching regular season games with enough intensity. And I think you put him and Jason Kidd together and you just have this mediocre sauce that for the first 30 games of the regular season, they spend too much time feeling shit out. They just do. I mean, this was our criticism going into the game or going into the season, where it's like they have to do better. And thus far, they haven't. I think there are some extenuating circumstances, but that's why you have 15 guys on the roster. Okay. Like, Dante Exum would have sucked up a lot of these minutes that Spencer and Hardy are getting. Now, whether he wouldn't have sucked up all of them because he's a bench player too, and I think just Kidd having more optionality is better. But I find myself struggling with what to think about this early part of the season, other than a lot of missed opportunities.
Yeah, I don't know why you needed to get cute in a game like this. Like, I don't know what point you're trying to prove, and especially with Dinwiddie, like, it's not like this is like a young guy that he's trying to build up confidence. That's a cornerstone of that could be a cornerstone of the team going forward. Like, when this team's fully healthy, he's not playing.
Do you see Lyle's comment there? Read it.
Yeah.
So Lyle, he pointed this out, and we should have mentioned it because I knew it, but I just didn't bring it up.
Played the whole fourth quarter.
In
overtime.
He came in at the 4:45 mark of the third quarter and never came out of the game again. That is coaching malpractice.
Yeah, like, what are you doing? I don't understand. Like, it's just, you get cute in a game like this. Like, your starters were killing it. Like, just, I know you're trying to manage minutes, but you had some rotation play. You had some main starters, like, again, Clay, 31 minutes in a game that went to overtime, and he was actually shooting the ball okay. Made 3 of 5 from 3. He had 6 rebounds. He was passing it okay. I actually thought he played a pretty good game. He missed some.
The best plus minus on the team.
Yeah, I mean, his defense was okay. Like, I just didn't see. Like, I don't know what Dinwiddie, like, Clay wasn't, like, if this was Clay from the Denver game, I get it. Like, he's 0 for, you got to pull him, you got to try something else. But he was making shots. I don't know what Clay, like, what kids saw that was like, now we got to get Clay off the floor here, and like, we got to keep Dinwiddie in. It was bizarre. And the same with Grimes, who didn't shoot well, but I thought played a good floor game otherwise. Like, had 3 assists, passed well, 7 rebounds. It was just weird. Like, Dinwiddie is not someone who's going to theoretically be a major part of this team going forward. I don't know if he was just throwing him a bone so that, like, he doesn't bitch in the locker room, because, like, Kidd is very in tune with that stuff, by the way. Like, that's why when people are like, I could be a better coach than Jason Kidd, it's like, okay, well, you're not just playing like NBA 2K. Like, when the game's over, you have to talk to these guys, and you have to talk to them during practice, and you have to engage with them every single day during the season, not just the 48 minutes that you see that we get to watch on the floor. Like, there's so much of that stuff that we don't even know, that I assume Kidd does very well, because you don't have 2 out of 3 conference finals appearances, and you don't have a finals appearance in one of those without some cohesion behind the scenes and in practice and in the preparation part of it. So that's part of it. But then, the in-game stuff is just like, I don't get it. Like, why are you throwing away a game so you can see what it looks like to close with Spencer Dinwiddie?
So
that is not a guy that's going to be, like, you're never going to close with him.
We have 550 games of evidence on what Spencer Dinwiddie is as a player. I don't need any more experimenting.
Yeah.
Like,
it's not like he's your first round pick from a year ago, and you're like, this guy's going to be important to our future. We got to get him. We got to know what it is. And it's like, no, he's your break glass in case of emergency guard for the most part.
And now you walk into the second night of a back-to-back. You just leave Miami immediately and go to Atlanta, where everybody's tired. So you turn what should have been at worst a 1-1 split, because they lost this game much more than Miami won it, in my opinion.
I think so. Too.
And I respect Miami, don't get me wrong, but the Mavericks really dumped on themselves. 8 second quarter turnovers, just some unbelievably bad. Like, they finished with 13 turnovers in the game. And so those shit-tastic lineups that he threw out there in the second quarter were part of why this game was such a disaster.
The bench had 5 turnovers.
What are you doing?
Yeah. So
you know what? All right. So I do want to, before we run out of here, I do want to note another absolutely stellar PJ game.
Yeah, they're figuring it out with him.
He got an offensive rebound on a Kyrie 3 that didn't go down, where it was like, oh yeah, he got the little putback. You know what I'm talking about? Do you remember that one?
Yeah,
like that was the game. The game would have been over in regulation. He doesn't make that kind of layup. Like, PJ is just, I'm really glad he's finding something. And I just we didn't even talk about him at all, which drives me crazy. So
no, I know. Yeah. And we talked about him a little bit. Like, they kind of got away. Like, the Heat did not play a particularly big team again tonight. They basically played Bam and then 4 perimeter players. And again, when teams do that, I love using PJ's size to take advantage of if they try to put a smaller guy on him. And I kind of wish, like you said, like why do that more in the fourth and overtime? Like post up, like try to get Tyler Hero to switch on him and post PJ up on him, or F it, let him go against, I don't know, whoever, Duncan Robinson or whoever else was, Haywood Highsmith. I don't know who else was guarding him because they couldn't put Bam on him because Bam had to guard one of Lively or Gafford. Like, I don't know. I wish they kind of, I mean, he had 14 shots and 7 free throw attempts. So it's not like he didn't touch the ball, but I just wish they could have used him more in the overtime for sure.
Game tape on that one's going to be fun for everybody to review. The defensive lapses were just absurd, but you know, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Okay, thank you for hanging out, guys. I'm not going to run an after show tonight because Josh and I are going to have to do this tomorrow night. I will run one tomorrow night. It's a lot of work. I've not eaten dinner yet. Woe is me. I know. Oh, it's fine. I make bad choices all the time. I did not eat Costco pizza today, which I feel like, and I went there. I feel like that should deserve a special reward. But everybody be good. We will be back tomorrow night. KP, thank you so much for the super sticker. I saw that a little bit earlier. We'll be back when the Mavericks play the Hawks. Everyone have a good start to your week. Thanks so much for hanging out. Go Mavs.